Hey, it's Deb in my Maine Gardens, and it is tulip planting day. It's November in Maine. November is a great month to plant tulips. The reason being, it's now cold, as you can tell by my wardrobe. So fashionable. I'm just trying to stay warm out here. But it's not so cold yet that the ground has frozen. Tulip bulbs can mold pretty easily, so you want to get them into very cold soil. And you know, in the early fall, we have those fluctuations in temperature where it can warm up, and it might kind of trick the bulbs into thinking, "Ooh, it's time to come back to life." We don't want that. We want these guys to sleep and have a lovely winter nap. So that's why I like to plant in November. A couple of things when you're planting tulips, and you probably already know this, or you may not know this, is that there are actually different varieties of tulips that bloom at different times. So there are early bloomers, early spring, mid-spring bloomers, and late spring bloomers. So you can use that to your advantage. What I'm doing here in this bed is I'm incorporating a mixture of early, mid, and late spring bloomers, so that if this works as I'm planning, I will have tulips for 2 months. Brilliant, right? The other thing I like to do is I like to mix colors and textures, and there's so many beautiful varieties. When I lay them out, and another tip, I like to lay them out first before I start digging, so I know where everything is. I group them. So I don't just willy-nilly put a bunch of different varieties out there. I group them. So I've got one variety here, and one variety here, and one variety here, and one variety here. So you have these beautiful pop-ups and this beautiful blanket of color, and it's just like a gorgeous palette. That's another tip. Another tip when you're thinking about planting tulips is they like sunny spots. This is a very sunny spot. You always plant them with the pointy side up. That's where your flower comes up. I usually put them about 4 or 5 inches down, and I like to sprinkle in a little bit of bone meal in every hole, just a little sprinkle. You can follow the directions on the back. It tells you how much to use. I do it like this, which is the same way I cook. Oh, that looks good. I haven't had a fail yet. So, then what else can I tell you about how I'm doing this? Oh, tools. This thing is pretty sweet. You push it down, it's the right depth for tulips, creates the right circumference to plant the bulb so it has growing room. The bulb has growing room, and it pulls the soil out. You put the tulip in, and then you just squeeze it, and the dirt falls out right on top. Why didn't I invent this? Whoever did, brilliant. If you don't have one of those, it's fine. You can also just use one of these. And if you measure kind of from the top to the bottom, that's about the depth you want your tulip. So that's another way to do it. And then, what else do I want to tell you? Oh, yeah, another tip is if planting these one by one by one by one stresses you out and you just don't have time in your life to do that, I get it. The other thing you can do is just push the soil out of the way. Push the soil out of the way, make a nice deep hole, again, about 4 or 5 inches. Lay the tulips in, sprinkle your bone meal, and then just pull the dirt back over it. Another very easy technique, takes less time. I like that technique, but I kind of like the one online because I kind of have a better sense of where everything is. Animals, critters, okay. So if you're worried about your bulbs being eaten by squirrels or birds or whatever, what I'm going to do when I'm done, I'm going to water these in, then I'm going to cover them with a layer of leaves from my gardens, right? Use those raked leaves. They're great mulch. Just to cover it, mulch it. Those leaves will break down, and that will protect the bulbs, protect the gardens, and hopefully keep the critters away. I have not had a problem with that, so I'm not too worried. We'll see how it goes. So those are my tips. I'm going to get busy. I'll let you watch my progress. And here's a funny thing. I started this project this morning, and then I got busy, and I've been a little under the weather, so I had to take a little nappy. And I was like, all right, well, it's 2:30. I have plenty of time. And then I realized, no, you don't, because it's 2:30 in November in Maine, which means it's going to be dark in about an hour and a half. It's usually dark by cocktail hour. So let's get this done. So that is done. It really doesn't take that long. It's work, but I like that technique of planting individual bulbs because it gives me a little more control of where they're going and how they're spaced. And as you noticed, I spaced mine a few inches apart. I like them kind of close together. And you're always going to have some bulbs that fail. And speaking of which, before you even lay your bulbs out to plant, you want to inspect them to be sure that they're healthy. Let me show you what I'm talking about. These are some that I pulled out because they're just didn't look healthy, kind of rotten in the bag. It happens. So those did not get planted. And then I like to just double check them as I'm putting them in the hole, but it went pretty quickly. If you're watching that, you're like, oh, that would kill my back. That auger thing that I use, you can actually get a taller one. And you might also have kids or grandkids who would find this fun, because it really is fun. And I just love getting my hands dirty in the garden in November, because I know that it won't be long before this is just a snow bed. So next, what I'm going to do is just water this in, and then I'm going to go rake up some leaves, cover it up with leaves, wet those down a bit, and I'll show you what that looks like. And before you know it, this whole thing's going to be covered with snow anyway. But I'm excited because I cannot wait to see what this looks like when all of these beauties pop up in the spring and bloom for us. So thanks for hanging out with me in my Maine tulip garden, and I hope you enjoyed the video. And if you did, leave a comment, subscribe, and you'll be the first to see our spring tulips. Thanks for hanging out with me. I'm gonna go get the hose.